Welcome to Congregation L'Dor Va-Dor's Parson to Parson. This is a monthly virtual program with co-hosts Rabbi Barry Silver of Congregation L'Dor Va-Dor and Pastor Fritz Aufdencamp. We thank you guys for being with us, and tonight is March 20th. It is also the first day of spring, and it's I'll let you guys take it over. Have a great conversation.
Thanks a lot, Sharon. I hope you joined the conversation as well. My voice is a little bit compromised today, so I'm not going to do too much talking as I usually do, but we'll let others partake in the conversation. But I thought we would talk about current events because there's so much going on. Of course, there's a lot going on politically, but it's also an anniversary, the 20th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. And there's a lot of things happening in Israel today. A lot of controversy going on there. Right. So I thought maybe we'd start with the 20th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. And Fritz, would you want to jump in and talk about that a little bit?
I was watching David Engel on CNN, and he was talking about, he was there 20 years ago when it all started, and he also is there now, and he's seeing how he thinks there might be hope. He thinks there might be hope that these people might. He was talking about a few schools that were now in operation, which were not in the past. But he seemed to have hope that somehow they might be able to muddle through this mess and make some kind of a salvageable society for themselves.
Yeah, I think so too. As long as they try to keep religion out of it and allow other forces to intervene.
Those two groups that are trying to have peace.
Which two groups are this?
The two Muslim groups, Shiites and the
Sunni.
Yeah, they're trying to help them not be so antagonistic to each other.
Who's trying to help them?
Well, each other. I guess they're trying to do some kind of a compromise with each other. I'm not sure of the details. David Engel just briefly commented about that.
Yeah, well, sanity is starting to prevail a little bit, but because of the rivalry they have with the two different factions of Islam, they could erupt any time. You could have more conflict and bitter fighting any time. What was interesting to me is that after the invasion, the United States made pretty short work of the Iraqi army. And then I remember there were some countries that wanted to get involved in the peacekeeping. And I remember very clearly, President Bush said, no, you can't get involved. We did the fighting. We get the spoils. You guys can't have anything to do with this peacekeeping. We'll do it.
He wanted the oil, right? As a reward.
Yeah. President Bush really thought that we'd be welcome. We'd have our sphere of influence there. We'd use their oil. And he didn't want anyone else in. It's so mindless. He totally screwed up, but he's not really held accountable for that. People don't even remember that. And what about our military intelligence? My dad used to say military intelligence is a contradiction in terms. What happened to the military intelligence? Why didn't they see what would happen if you disband the Iraqi army and invade, get rid of the army, and then just let all hell break loose? And DeSantis, meanwhile, he spent years in Iraq. He was doing some kind of he was a lawyer over there trying to deal with people who broke the law. If he's such a great leader and so smart, did he ever say that, it might not be a good idea for us to be here? We might not want to lose 4,000 men and tens of thousands of wounded,
right.
millions of dollars of money lost for nothing. What do we have to show for it? All we had was it devolved into a bitter civil war. People died for nothing. I hear a lot about the 4,000 people who died, which is horrible. I don't hear about the tens of thousands of Americans who were wounded, maimed, crippled for life, families destroyed because they have to watch their loved ones in agony for decades, all the Iraqis who died, and it's just horrible. Why? Because we didn't see that religious factions would fight each other. The same thing in Afghanistan. Spent billions of dollars there, lost thousands of lives, thousands of wounded, and then we left. What do we have to show for it? And where's the accountability? Where are people holding the government and the military accountable for spending all that time, money, and losing all those lives with nothing to show for it. We learn very little. We don't have a lot of intelligence in the government or in the military. If we did, we would see that there's one solution to Afghanistan and Iraq. That is to transform their religion. The religion is the source of all the fighting, all the oppression, the denial of rights to women. It's religion, but, oh, I'm not supposed to say that. That's politically incorrect. Religion is a great, beautiful, wonderful thing, teaches people to love each other, and so we shouldn't criticize religion. So there you go. We just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
And that same thing can be happening in our country too.
Absolutely. Same thing here. Which brings me to Israel. Israel is in danger because the right wing wants to take it over because they speak for God. And therefore, they don't need the government telling them what to do. They want to form the government and take over the government by the right wing, and then take over the judiciary also, so that the right wing will have a complete control over the country. And why shouldn't they? They speak for God. God doesn't make mistakes, so it makes sense to them that they should have absolute control. We call that totalitarianism.
The lack of separation, for centuries, it was not a separation of church and state. And this is so new to us. We're so new with dealing with the separation, and we're struggling with it in our own country, and let alone trying to expect these other countries to realize that, you got to separate these things. You can't be running your country with religion.
Yeah, well, I read DeSantis's book, and DeSantis agrees with what you're saying. Yes, he says that the rights that we have don't come from the Constitution. No, these are God-given rights. The only problem is, I don't know whose God he's consulting to see what rights they give, and I don't know how he knows what rights God has determined that women should have with abortion, or blacks should have teaching their history, or gays should have. I don't know how he discerns the rights of God, but it's really interesting that to DeSantis, the rights given by God are the same rights that fundamentalist Christians think we have. What's an amazing coincidence that God happens to agree with the particular background that DeSantis has. So it's a remarkable coincidence. And he also says our rights come from our Judeo-Christian tradition. The problem is that when it comes to abortion, there is no Judeo-Christian. The two are different. So we now see, what does the Judeo-Christian tradition mean? It means that if the Judeo part is different than the Christian part, then the Judeo part disappears, and we're left with the Christian definition and the Christian law regarding abortion rights. So much for the Judeo part. That's just there for show. If there's ever a conflict, then it's out. And also, you have different types of Christians. You have, the main difference is you have right-wing and progressive Christians, right-wing and liberal Christians. Which Judeo-Christian tradition is it? Well, if you're DeSantis, it's the right-wing Christian. The liberal Christians are the devil. These are evil people trying to bring in socialism and things. So it's not really a Judeo-Christian tradition. It's a right-wing Christian tradition that he's imposing, which just so happens to be the same brand of religion that he practices. Now I'll open up to everybody else, and to Fritz and to Ginny. Sharon, go ahead. Have at it.
I have so much to say about what's happening, but let me try to tailor it. First of all, DeSantis, and he's just a degenerate, and what he's doing is crippling the state of Florida, crippling it. I just read recently, I guess the Hilton Hotel in Miami Beach, I think it was the Hilton, had a drag show, and now he wants to pull their liquor license. And I always thought I was rather politically astute, but I don't understand how I didn't realize that states have sovereignty. And I never realized, I couldn't understand how he's getting away with all of this. Because he has a Republican legislature and he's just running amok, unchecked. The thing that's so dangerous to our democracy is that this type of thing is spreading. Now, I think I'm correct that some doctors in Idaho, I believe it is, are leaving the state because of the abortion issue and their inability to treat their patients. I think it's Idaho. I don't think it's Ohio. I'm pretty sure it's Idaho. And I just don't know where this is all going. You know, I try to look to see some path. One thing I think, and not to be too take over the whole program here, but the one thing I think is that I need to see our Democratic Party be more vociferous. I need them to express more concern. I need them to express more outrage, and I have not heard it. So that's particularly disturbing.
The Democratic Party has totally failed to stand up and speak out against these outrages. Right. How is it that they failed so miserably in Florida that you know, like Trump or DeSantis, they can win the state? I mean, these guys are doing obvious outrages on a daily basis, and the party is not motivated. Now, I'll give you one example. There's one congregation in the country that filed a lawsuit to defend abortion rights against the anti-abortion law.
Right.
Do you think that one person from the Democratic Party would call up or write or contact us and say, hey, that's a good idea. We're for you. We're behind you. Let us know if there's anything we can do to help your efforts. Let us know. Maybe there's some Congress people have some connections who could help make this work. Do you think that would happen? No.
It didn't happen.
Our congregation has joined the effort to protect the environment, the Ag Reserve, the Everglades. We've spoken out on that numerous times. Do you think anybody from the party contact? No. We've done numerous things for gun control, numerous things to bring religions together. Do they contact us? No. You would think that somewhere they would think, wow, there's a congregation who's fighting for the same things we are. Maybe we should support them or congratulate them. Or no. In fact, the Democratic Party doesn't allow me to have anything to do with them, because I guess I'm too controversial. I say things that are true and accurate. I'm science-based. Whatever it is, they want nothing to do with us. And the Democratic Party needs to work with the grassroots movements that are fighting for women's rights and the environment and equality, and to join forces. But they don't. What they're very good at is telling people, go out and vote, go out and vote, go out and vote, organizing. Telling them why they should go out and vote, not so good at. Fritz, do you have anything on that?
Speaking of sugarcane, this week, a reporter from 60 Minutes is doing something this week on the sugarcane thing. And I thought, sure, you would know about it.
Now, I didn't hear about that, but I'm very interested in checking it out because I've been involved with that issue.
That's what I thought when I talked to the person who's going to be at the meeting with this reporter from 60 Minutes. I said, was Barry Silver going to be there? And he says, not that I know of. So I don't understand why he's not there.
Yeah, the Democratic Party doesn't get me involved in those things. But I took on the sugar industry when I was in office and before and after. And I remember when I was at a meeting in Tallahassee where the Democratic caucus was meeting, and the guy from the sugar industry said, Representative Silver, you're kind of tough on the sugar industry. Don't you think there's two sides to every question? And I think I might have mentioned that here. I said, yes, there are two sides. There's the truth and there's your side. Right. There's the environmental side and there's your side.
That's why you're so popular, I think.
Yeah. Well, the Democratic Party hated me because they get a lot of money from the sugar industry and from the developers who are paving over the county. So they don't really have much to do with me or L'Dor Va-Dor. But I am grateful to be part of a congregation that's standing up and fighting, and we need more people to do that. I agree with you 100%, Jenny. We need people who are going to stand up and fight.
How do you explain their lack of speaking out? I find it's just a conundrum to me.
It's very easy. Very, very easy. Money is the mother's milk of politics, okay?
Root of all evil.
Yeah, so when I got to Tallahassee, I was just elected. I got up there full of ideas and positive things that we could do. I had a whole list of things. They weren't interested. The party leadership had no interest in any of this. Instead, they wanted to educate me. So when I got up there within the first week, they had a big meeting for what I was called a freshman, for the newcomers. And some of the old timers were there too. And they handed out to everybody in every Democrat that was elected a list of lobbyists. And they handed out the list of lobbyists and they said, call these people. These people will contribute money to the Democratic Party, and they'll also get you free meals. So call them up, they'll take you out for a nice meal, and then they'll explain to you what their issues are and listen to them and vote their issues, and you can help us raise lots of money. So after that meeting, I went up to the people who were organizing it, and I took the list and I handed it to them, and I say, I don't raise money. I raise issues and I raise consciousness. I don't raise money and I take no free meals. And I remember what they told me. They said, you'll never come back to Tallahassee. You're not a team player. And if you take that attitude, you will never be back in Tallahassee. You'll be a one-term representative and you have no political future. And I remember I said to him, well, at least I'll have a good time for the 2 years I'm here. I'll be able to sleep at night. And they were true to their word. I'll tell you one thing. Many politicians are very true to their word. They were very true to their word. They campaigned vigorously to take me out of office. They found a former Republican who they convinced they made him a Democrat, because they couldn't find a Democrat to run against me. Got a Republican, he changed party. They offered him $100,000, like a bounty, to run against me. They offered anyone who would run against me $100,000 from sugar and developers. And they found somebody. His name was Kurt Levine. He was a Republican. They gave him money. And then they went to work. Commercials, hit pieces, saying all these terrible things about me. And he won by only 500 votes. It was very, very close.
Wow.
And it was a very traumatic event for me, because when they took me out of office, they destroyed my reputation. They said all these horrible things about me. And people in my district that had loved me and voted like 90% for me, by the time they were done, they hated me. I had no political future, and my legal career was pretty much gone also. And people didn't want to use me as a lawyer either. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I was in serious trouble. But fortunately, I clawed my way back and came back again. But that is the Democratic Party. I'll tell you something else interesting about the Democratic Party. Mm. We had a candidate named Robert Watson. Many people know him because he's one of the most popular speakers in Palm Beach County. People love to listen to him. He's a college professor, very bright, very honest, and he knows all about politics. He was running for office on the Democratic ticket, and he was doing wonders. People loved him. They flocked to hear him speak. And he was running against someone who was in office who was a really good fundraiser. And Watson, like me, wanted nothing to do with these funds. He wanted nothing to do with it. So Bert Aronson approached him and said, Professor Watson, you're not a real Democrat. You're not really doing what the Democratic Party expects of you. We need our representatives to raise money. And if you're not going to do that, then we're going to back somebody else. He said, no, I can't do that. Well, they went to war against him. And he came to me. He knew I had political experience. He said, these people are crazy. I don't know what to do. They're like saying all these horrible things about me. I have a family to support, and I have a job at the local college. I can't do this anymore. I got to drop out. I pleaded with him. I said, please don't drop out. We need you. You're a great politician. You're honest. You'd be wonderful in Congress. He said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to lose the race and my job at the college. And he dropped out. He would have been one of the best Congress people we have. So that's your Democratic Party. That's those are the people who are supposedly helping us overcome what's going on in the Republican Party. So it's true that the Republicans are doing a lot of bad stuff, but the Democrats are doing a lot of bad things also. And we need true reform of politics and religion, because the solution has to come from both. We need grassroots people to open their eyes, see what's going on, and try to turn things around.
Does the median age of Florida have anything to do with this?
Does who?
The median age of Floridians.
Yeah.
Does that play any role in what's in the Democratic approach to problems?
Yeah, well, the Democratic Party tends to support senior issues because the seniors vote in very large numbers.
Yes.
And the young people don't vote in such high numbers, so they tend to support senior issues. I'll tell you something else that I discovered when I was in office and campaigning and elsewhere. Many people assume that the seniors are not so interested in education because they're older and they don't have kids in school. I found that's a lie. When I was running for office, if I did a program on education, I would get 95% seniors. Very, very few young people. And you might ask why. One reason is because the young people are, I guess they're busy raising their kids and they got families and stuff. But the other more significant reason, senior citizens, especially in my opinion, Jewish seniors who are in this area, they're devoted to education. And when we held a meeting, there were many, many, many Jewish seniors who came out because they understand that education is the bulwark of our democracy.
That's right.
And Jewish people care deeply about education for their kids, their grandkids, and for everybody else. I'm not saying there weren't other people who weren't Jewish, but Jewish people care deeply about education across the board of every age. So the fact there's a lot of seniors doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to vote just for senior issues. They vote, the seniors in this area, Jewish and Christian, I think really believe in democracy. And they come out and they get involved and they vote in higher numbers and they support things that are good for everybody, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, we're struggling with the whole thing. You just mentioned about the separation of church and state and the role that religion is playing. And I'm doing a Palm Sunday sermon, and my title is The Donkey Ride That Divided Civilization.
Ah.
And that sounds like a great title.
Of course, there was division before that, but the division really, really blossomed after Jesus was around. Those 200 or 300 years after that, it really took off.
I like that, the donkey ride. That's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where are you delivering this speech? For Palm Sunday?
At the Unitarian Church on Palm Sunday. Yes.
Very good. What date is that? Do you know?
It's
Probably April 2nd.
the first Sunday in April 2nd. That's right. I just on my calendar. That's a couple of weeks away.
I encourage people to go listen to Pastor Fritz. He's great. And the Unitarian Fellowship is a beautiful place. They have very, very inspiring services, and they're fighting for good causes.
It's interesting that we have an event here in Holy Week that didn't turn out the way Jesus wanted it to. It was kind of a failed coup, and so they reinterpreted it to make him a hero. And we kind of had that going on January the 6th. It was a failed coup, and they reinterpreted it to make Trump look like a hero or something. I don't know.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's amazing to see an attempted takeover, and the Republican Party is defending the insurrectionists.
Yes.
And all the MAGA people. Do you know what MAGA stands for?
Make America Great Again?
No, mutinous, anti-government, anarchists.
Oh.
I knew you'd have a new one for that.
Yes. I gave a really fun talk over at the Boca JCC today about abortion rights in Judaism. And if anybody's listening, if you're interested in any lectures, discussions, debates, I'm available at any time, and so is Pastor Fritz, and the two of us can join you together.
And that's why your voice is lacking because of that, I assume.
Yeah.
You're speaking today, yeah.
I've said pretty much everything I need to say. My voice is pretty much shot, but I appreciate your
heard from
tuning
Sharon.
in.
We haven't heard
Fritz,
from.
you have any closing comments?
I want to hear from Sharon.
Go ahead,
Well,
Sharon.
I was just going to ask some more questions. I was going to ask, I know that Rabbi Barry had a lot of experience in the Florida legislature. Do you think the Washington, D.C. legislature runs exactly the same or similarly?
It's the same thing, but on a bigger scale. Yeah, same thing, bigger scale. Yeah, money talks.
Money.
The party needs, well, they think they need money. I think the Democratic Party will do much better when they decide to raise issues and consciousness instead of money. They're trying to be Republican light. They're taking money from the same sources, feeding at the same trough. They just take a little less, and they say the right things, but they don't always do the right things. The Republican Party, in my opinion, says and does the wrong thing. Democratic Party says the right thing, but they don't always do the right thing. The Republican Party is pretty good when it comes to Israel, and pretty good when it comes to recognizing the danger of Islam, and pretty good when it comes to recognizing the excesses of Black Lives Matter, which concern me. So I don't suggest that one party is all pure and the other isn't. I don't see it that way. But I do see the Republican Party good on Israel in general, Black Lives Matter, and recognizing the threat of Islam. Democratic Party is really good on most of the other issues like gun control, environment, women's rights, and interfaith harmony and things like that. But I think that if you're a member of either party, don't just go along with what they're doing. Speak up and challenge them and seek a transformation in the Democratic Party. Or if you're a Republican in the Republican Party, if you're Jewish, seek transformation in Judaism. So we don't just pray in the synagogue and then go home and forget about it, but that we're actually out there in the world trying to bring Jewish values to the world. I see Fritz is interested in bringing Christian values to the world. That's what we need. We need people who are going to be engaged in what's going on in the world, not what goes on in the synagogue or the church should not stay in the synagogue and the church. Fritz, go ahead. What do you think about all that?
The tragedy of Christianity is that they took this Holy Week and they transformed Jesus in such a way that the primary message now is believe and be saved. And all of his teachings, I go by the wayside. What he was really all about were some great, I don't agree with everything that he said, but he had some great teachings that could do wonders for the planet. But we grabbed hold of this divisive element and ran with it. And it's tragic. It's just so tragic.
Yeah. I think you're right, Fritz. There's a lot of beautiful things in Christianity. And you're one of those people who knows how to describe them and to share them and to inspire people with them. There's beautiful things in Christianity. And there's millions of Christians doing wonderful things, feeding the homeless and spreading peace and love. There's beautiful things. But there's many Christians, especially on the right wing, who are taking the message and using it to clobber people over the head with it and trying to take over the government with it and try to force their will on people. So we need a type of religion that is not going to see itself as the sole source of God's word, but rather to see itself as a path towards spirituality that they want to share with other people and that celebrates different paths. Sharon, go ahead.
I was going to ask the very controversial thing of who's going to run for president next? Who do you think? I mean, on the Democratic side, who do you think do you really think Biden is going to run again, or do you think there's somebody else that might really
it's going to be
help
very
us?
entertaining to watch, more so on the Republican side, to see Trump and DeSantis and those guys go at it. But I think Biden's going to take it on the Democratic side. I don't see anybody challenging him if he wants it. The only way that it's not going to happen is if he voluntarily steps down. But I think he's doing a good job. And I think, yeah, he's a little old, but I think he's doing a good job. And I don't think anybody's going to take him on because they don't want to be responsible for dividing up the Democratic Party. So unless Biden is convinced to step down, I think it's going to be him. The Republican side is going to be interesting.
So why did he go with drilling in Alaska?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that.
Because
what convinced him?
The Democratic Party is trying to be Republican light. They're trying to like go a middle ground to bring in people so they're not accused of being extremists.
Yeah.
And it's really a horrible thing. When it comes to the planet, we're in a crisis mode. We can't do a middle ground.
Yeah.
It's like we are the Titanic and we're approaching the iceberg. And the leadership wants to like, okay, let's just take a slight turn and let's slow down a little bit. No, you need to do something really drastic. And if we compromise on this issue and we compromise our values, then we're compromising the planet and future generations. It's a terrible thing. We need to speak out against that, especially if we're Democrats. We need to hold these folks accountable and not just go around saying, well, I'm going to be loyal to my party. We need to be loyal to Jewish ideals, Christian ideals, American ideals, and loyal to our planet, not to the party.
I think it's been said that by 2030, we're really going to be in trouble with warming.
They keep putting it off. We're in serious existential trouble right now. Many people think there's nothing we can do. I'm not quite that pessimistic, but we need to do something now. We don't have the luxury of time. Anyway,
actually,
thanks,
just one quick thing, Fritz, with the drilling, the thing that is so horrific is a destruction of the environment there, but all the animals. What about all the wildlife?
Yeah.
Horrible.
I mean, it's just a nightmare. It's a nightmare. And once, all the species, once they become extinct, say goodbye to humans. I mean, we're all connected.
It's a crime against nature.
Maybe we need a Roosevelt to save us.
Well, the thing is this. I think that we've learned our help isn't going to come from on high, and it's not going to come from the White House. Our help will come from all of us. The great movements of this country, the women's rights movement, the environmental movement, the civil rights movement, the movement for women's liberation, it all came from the ground up. And when it became a powerful force, then the politicians said, okay, we'll go along with it because it's going to get us votes.
Right.
And so what we believe at L'Dor Va-Dor is it's up to us and the other congregations and organizations. So we'll be organizing. We'll be speaking out against that drilling. We're not going to take it lying down.
Right.
And we're going to seek allies. We'll be looking for people to stand with us, but we will be challenging that decision as well as any decision that's going to devastate our planet. And we're looking for allies.
Good.
Hey, thanks everybody. Friday night, 7:30. We'd love to see you either online or in person. Grand Villa is where we do our thing. And there's a Passover Seder coming up. Sharon can tell you about it. And thanks everybody who's here on Zoom. And thank everybody who's listening online for joining us. I'll turn it over to Sharon.
Take care of your voice.
Stay well. Stay well. Get better.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Get better. Heal the planet. Heal us. Heal our government. And peace and love for everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Shabbat
you
shalom.
all.